Listen, look, that's never been seen in Colorado. If it works, it could change the way we fight fires. Colorado's racial disparities in vaccinations are starting to show up in the numbers of who is still getting sick with COVID. A next viewer wonders what to do if you lose your vaccination card. We long ago moved the river for the road. The river keeps moving the road back. Maybe it's time to change course. Denver's new area code is easy to remember. WTF. And, you guys gonna have babies, or what are you waiting for? It'd be historic for Colorado. But is it really any of our business? Of course it is. Next. Wildfires do not stop burning at night. Yet we lose one of our best methods to fight fires when the sun goes down. Our Marshall Zellinger and photojournalist Chris Hansen show us why that is about to change.
You know, we're seeing things that we've never seen before. Well, that's why we brought this out, is it's time.
On a night nice enough for stargazing,
It's a lot of pressure, you know, and it's exciting.
firefighters from up and down the Front Range took a moment to look up and see something that's never been seen before in Colorado.
And that's not like a 747 that's flying at 30,000 feet. It's a little bit closer.
A little bit closer indeed. That's a single-engine air tanker doing a simulated fire retardant drop at night.
Even as a tanker pilot myself, man, I love it. Like, it's like, wow, how do these guys do this?
Zachary Sullivan,
You know, it's a brand new concept.
from Co-Fire Aviation, wanted to show these fire crews. Some who worked the East Troublesome Fire, Left Hand Canyon, and Cameron Peak. What could be possible that has not been possible before?
You know, implementation, you want to make sure it's done the right way. You've got a home, the fire's coming towards it. It's 8:52 p.m., which we have to be on the ground. Using today as the actual day, on 8:52, the airplane has to be on the ground. With this technology, we can go a couple hours past that.
It turns out to fight a fire at night from the sky, you need more than moonlight.
A pilot's equipped with night vision goggles.
The lights on the plane's dash have been adjusted and dimmed. The lights on the outside of the plane are filtered. They still warn other aircraft, but are not so bright for the pilot when the goggles go on.
A power line's extremely difficult to see during the day. We always look for the power poles and not the power lines. But with this technology, we see the lines. Just look at how much of the topography, you can see the lights of the cars driving down the highway glistening off the side of the rocks.
It seems strange that vision could be better at night.
860 ground IC, do you have our panel? Sure, yeah, we've contacted the panel.
Perhaps strange is needed after a year that saw Colorado's 3 largest wildfires.
You know, if the fire's going to do things we are not used to, it's time to bring in ways to attack that fire that we're not used to, and this is one of those things.
Night firefighting like this is happening in Oregon. California does nighttime helicopter water drops. Colorado's contract with this company is currently a daylight contract. The county crews, Kyle, that were out there watching last night could perhaps convince their counties to ask for nighttime use of that plane for county-managed fires. But if it's a larger fire and the state's involved, the state would need to rework a contract to allow for the nighttime use of the plane.
Okay, first off, that's ridiculously cool, Marshall. And secondly, I'm curious, do they have different altitude restrictions in terms of where they can fly, obviously because of how many of our fires happen at altitude?
I remember that question came up during the briefing last night, and I think it was more in relation to smoke, and if the smoke is so thick that you can't quite see through it, does that cause elevation problems or altitude problems? That plane, they fly normally at 60 to 80 feet. The answer to the smoke question, at least, was at night through the night vision goggles, you can perhaps see better through the smoke with those than you can when the sun is reflecting off of the smoke. I don't know if that directly answered your question, though.
No, it's all super interesting, and I think everybody in Colorado is used to, you know, just hoping that fires lie down at night when things are a little bit cooler, but now the ability to attack, especially if homes are threatened, that would be remarkable. Thank you, Marshall. I want to give you a quick look at our latest vaccination numbers as we inch closer to 3 million Coloradans with at least one shot. 43.1% of Colorado's population is done with the vaccine process, and 448,000 people are waiting on that second dose. Our vaccination disparities by race are now starting to show up in the makeup of who is still getting COVID in our state. Latinos make up a disproportionately large share of our recent illnesses. Last week, 24.4% of new cases in Colorado were Latinos, purple portion of the graph. Overall, they make up 26.3% of cases throughout the pandemic, and in the state's population, less than 22%. White Coloradans, the pink portion on the graph, were 48.6% of new cases last week, while white Coloradans are almost 68% of the state's population. Recent cases among black Coloradans were about a half percentage off from the total population. Perhaps most importantly, though, more than 1 in 5 new COVID cases were classified ethnicity unknown, so it is quite possible that these racial disparities in new COVID cases are even wider than we realize. The healthcare industry again backed down Democrats at the state capitol who wanted to create a government-controlled public option for health insurance. It was watered down once more in a bill that was also promising some other changes to insurance designed to improve care for underserved communities and to save all Coloradans money. Anusha Roy looks at whether the bill in its current form can still deliver on those promises.
Advocates for House Bill 21-1232 were clear this morning.
Have the ability to participate in the system so we don't die like flies, like we are dying right now in the middle of a freaking pandemic. That's the reality.
And the Colorado option will be expanding access to people who are undocumented.
It would create a standardized health insurance plan that insurance companies would have to offer across the state, with important promises of being more affordable, reaching more minority, rural communities, lower income families, and small businesses.
The plan is going to be designed alongside people of color.
For those who have insurance through their employer currently or get their insurance through Medicare or Medicaid, this bill is not going to impact them. But there's a certain percentage of Coloradans who are being really squeezed by high health insurance costs.
Around 15% of the insurance marketplace could buy in. That adds up to around 466,000 Coloradans. But the promises are riding on a plan that has yet to be written. And the Colorado Association of Health Plans is worried about realistically meeting goals, the amount of authority granted to the Division of Insurance, and cost shifting.
We got it to a reasonable place where the price reductions are modest, but they will be significant for people who are struggling to afford insurance.
Just looking at all of the underlined and highlighted changes shows just how much this bill has morphed.
Physicians are begging to be empowered.
The Colorado Medical Society switched from being against the bill to neutral, and after an amendment that would allow physician groups to opt in or out of accepting the proposed insurance plan versus making it mandatory with penalties. They say they are all about quality, affordable health care, but wanted more flexibility.
Physicians take Medicare and take Medicaid, and this bill, pays above Medicare.
When we were talking to the Colorado Medical Society, they said they're kind of in this wait and see mode, right? If this bill does pass and what that insurance plan ultimately looks like, that's when they're going to be able to tell how access is changing for rural communities and for the underserved communities. And a big component of this is going to be enforcement. So what happens if an insurance company doesn't actually meet all of the requirements? Well, the plan right now is for the state to step in and start working with them to make sure that what was promised in the bill is actually what people are going to benefit from. They're hoping to get all of that sorted out before any of these insurance plans would be opened up to the public by 2023. Of course, Kyle, the very first step is that this is now heading back to the House. There's some Senate changes that they have to go over and then seeing where the bill goes from there.
And Anusha, I think when I think about racial disparities in healthcare outcomes, one of the first things that jumps to mind is maternal mortality. Like across America, that continues to be a really big issue.
Yeah, and we were asking throughout the day, right? So specifically, what is happening within this bill that is going to be addressing those kinds of disparities? And there's actually language in it where they want to address prenatal care and make it more affordable because maternal mortality, it's impacting minority women at a disproportionate rate across the country. We're seeing that same trend in Colorado. So, as they're working on this, if this passes, one of the things they want to get to is how do you make that affordable and get people in for their appointments?
All right. Anusha, thank you very much. The Denver area could have gotten 420 as its new area code. It is available, but no. The North American Numbering Plan Administrator stuck us with 983. WTF. 983 spells WTF on your phone. You can check. Next viewer named Steve was the first person I saw who had spotted that. He saw it before I did. Our new WTF area code goes into circulation in 2020 when both 303 and 720 were projected to run out of available phone numbers. The 303 well is basically dry at this point. There's only one prefix remaining for new 303 numbers. Prefix is the 3 digits that come right after the area code. And each prefix has 10,000 number combos you can make out of it. Here's where it gets tricky. The last prefix left for 303 is 970. And that would be crazy confusing because 970 is already a Colorado area code. Could you imagine telling somebody, my number's 303 970? No, that'd be a mess. So there's a lot more room left in the 720 area code, 500,000 possible combinations there. We asked if there would be some big event for whoever in Colorado gets the first WTF number, 983 area code number. No party, no celebration. It's going to be some boring administrative thing where, like, the first phone carrier to call up and be like, hey, we need some numbers, they'll get assigned the first batch of 983 numbers. And that can't be done until the existing area codes are down to their last 6 months of expected supply. So it's not going to be until April 2022. WTF, that was a lot of numbers. Do you carry your vaccination card? You know, just in case you're asked for it. What happens if that vaccination card goes missing? An 80-year struggle between a road and a river is finally coming to an end. Humans have lost. Nature has won. And all of Colorado is watching a young wolf couple anxiously waiting for their babies, like we're their mother-in-law or something. Next. Tonight's next question comes to us from Bob.
I recently accidentally washed my CDC COVID vaccine card. In trying to replace it, I discovered that all I get is the runaround between my clinic, the Colorado Department of Health, and its record department. Seems like there's no reliable process available to replace it. Maybe you can offer some insight.
I can't, Bob, but Heather Roth, the state's head of immunization, knows how to get that replacement vaccination card.
Our guidance is for them to go back to the vaccine provider that gave them their dose, and they can create a new card. We're kind of concerned about, fraudulent cards out there, so it's not something that you can just print out and fill out. You want your healthcare provider to do it. That said, if you can't get a hold of your healthcare provider, you can call our department. We have a help desk staffed with a lot of people all around the CIS. So if you lost your record, you can also call us, and we can print out a record and send it to you.
So there was that number. Remember, we are at your service for any and all questions, big or small, because the bottom line is, if there's something you're wondering about, somebody else is going to be wondering about it as well. So next time you're curious about something, while you're thinking about it, just grab your phone, record your question as a video or a voice memo, and send it on to us. You can email it to next@9news.com or share it on social media with the hashtag HeyNext. We will find an answer for you and for anybody else who might be wondering the same thing.
Sunshine and 70s today. A beautiful day. The storm that triggered all of the convection on the northeastern plains yesterday is long gone. And once that fog burned off, we actually saw some 80s on the map down south. Denver's high will be 81 on Friday. So that means good travel weather, I-25 and I-70. We're tracking a couple of high-base storms down south. They'll move out quickly. We have a mostly sunny day tomorrow with increasing high clouds in the northern and central mountains. Fair skies and 47 tonight. On Friday, how about sunshine and 81. We get you into the weekend with a few thunderstorms and a gradual cooling trend for Saturday. Cloudy and much cooler Sunday and Monday with a good chance of rain from storms. On the holiday, temperatures in the 50s ahead of a warming trend with sunshine and 70s Tuesday and Wednesday.
First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the whole state wondering if you're going to mate already. When Highway 36 was built in the 1930s, that pesky little Thompson River was in the way. State Highway Department was like, well, we'll just move the river.
And the thing about a river is it's a dynamic, changing system. It's a living, breathing organism.
The river has had a way of telling us to undo our mistake. Next. It's the biggest celebrity sighting in Colorado since Aaron Rodgers and Shailene Woodley were supposedly seen hanging around Boulder. Colorado now has its first confirmed wolf couple in almost 80 years. One wolf in the pair was first spotted up in Jackson County in 2019 after splitting away from a pack in Wyoming. When that wolf was seen with another male wolf in February, wildlife workers were like, well, hold up, maybe it's not a male after all. And sure enough, the first one was a lady wolf. So there is a male-female pair now being tracked by GPS to their new den. And if they're shacking up together, well, then you know what that means. Wildlife workers have not confirmed that there are pups at this point, but they are monitoring the den with cameras to see if adorable fuzzy little faces pop out. If that happens, that would be the first confirmed wolf pup born in our state since the 1940s. Building roads in Colorado has involved moving mountains and sometimes moving rivers. That's what the State Highway Department did 84 years ago. They actually moved the Little Thompson River. Well, nature is having none of that. 2 big floods later, the state is going to put the river back where they found it. Here's Corey Reppenhagen.
When this section of U.S. Highway 36 between Pinewood Springs and Estes Park was built in 1937, the State Highway Department decided to move the Little Thompson River out of the way.
And the thing about a river is it's a dynamic changing system. It's a living, breathing organism, whereas the roadway is more of a fixed feature made by humans.
CDOT engineer Brian Varela says the roadway and the river worked in harmony for the most part, but the Little Thompson yearned to get back to its original channel. And during the big floods of 1976 and 2013, it found its way back, and it took Highway 36 with it.
And now that we have that better understanding, we can make different decisions, change the design and modify it to make sure that it stays here and that it lasts a long time.
The trouble spot is this bend near Lion Gulch Trailhead. The blue line shows the Little Thompson's historic channel. The red line is where they moved the river in 1937. The solution was to build a culvert under the highway here and a tunnel here. That allowed the river to go where it naturally wants to go. And now the snowmelt that feeds the Little Thompson is running through its natural channel for the first time in 84 years. It doesn't look like much, but Varela says this small river will one day swell with floodwaters again, putting this new balance between man and nature to the test.
I believe if the 2013 flood came through today, the roadway would still be passable, this channel would still be functional, and we would have a completely different outcome.
Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
I guess I pictured the Little Thompson being bigger. I don't know. River Shift is also going to restore a safe passage for fish to get downriver, and both the culvert and the tunnel are going to have room for large mammals like deer, elk, sheep, moose, so they can cross Highway 36 without tangling with us. Your feedback's next. Michael writes in to say, I'm guessing tomorrow is the final day for Next in your basement studio. If so, thanks for the memories, he says. You made life a bit easier this past year welcoming us into your home. Been my pleasure, Michael. Yes, tomorrow is the last day. Roscoe, though, is big mad that we've been brainstorming with you about what to do with the wood pile other than just let it sit there. Roscoe says, yep, must be a liberal if you can't figure out what to do with firewood. Roscoe, actually, we got a really cool idea. There's one of them sitting right over here. I'll show you tomorrow. I'll show everybody tomorrow, I promise you. See you from here one last time next time.